One, I got to do a little bit of introduction for the people in the audience and the council. I've asked Jeff McMullen from Choice One Engineering to come here to present tonight. And just to give you a little background, over the past 2 weeks, I've had over 8 hours of conversation with the Environmental Protection Agency. Jeff and I have talked on a number of occasions. You have in your packet tonight, so does the audience, they have the contract that we have with Choice One. I'd like to give you a little bit of background before he starts. You also have a timeline that's in your packet. And that timeline deals with when Cleves withdrew from the Hamilton County Stormwater District. I am no expert in this area, so I now have about 7 EPA numbers in my phone. And what I would tell you is that I think the EPA has been educated, and so have we. But when we withdrew back in, I think, 2014. I think it actually happened over a couple of years. I had a conversation. I actually emailed Michelle Flanagan, who is the director for Southwest Ohio. And I said, can I see the reports? Can I see them for what the Village of Cleves has filed? And the answer was, there haven't been any. If you take a look at 2021 on that timeline, that is where the EPA first started realizing we weren't part of the Hamilton County Stormwater District anymore. And there's quite a bit of things that we have to do to be in compliance. That 2021 was caused by a curious resident in Cleves, which I'll leave unnamed, and I spoke to her about that. She mentioned the person by name to me that started questioning what the Village of Cleves was doing and what it wasn't doing. So with that, in 2021, I believe it was, then we had this permit issue that we had to renew, and that's where Choice One comes in. Is they are the ones who are managing our stormwater. Well, I say managing, that's not his term. They are our consultants on how to manage. So Jeff, if you would come forward, please. I'd like the council to listen to Jeff, and he'll give you an overview of the contract and what's coming ahead that we have to do within the village.
Good evening, I'm Jeff McMullen. Part of my speech, I had some dental work this afternoon, and still can't be so if you can't understand what I say, just let me know.
If you need more room, feel free to push that button.
You can
I've
use,
never seen it pushed back that far.
you can use the mic too if you want.
I'm good. Basically, the first one was hired to help get you back in compliance with the EPA. And that started out with getting your NPDES permit with the EPA, general permit for a MS4 community, which is what Cleves is. And it's a general permit from the state. And the EPA, you haven't had a permit since 2013, 2014?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So that was the first step in starting the process of getting into compliance. In this our contract here, I state what basically needs to happen. There's a stormwater management plan that needs to be developed, and it's basically step by step how to manage the stormwater. What happens when there's a large rain event? There has to be inspections done of all different outfalls to make sure everything's operating the way it's supposed to. There has to be a public education and outreach program where you're educating the residents on how to maintain stormwater on their properties. Possibly rain barrels, or other items that you can do to help with runoff. There's also public involvement participation. That could be a wide range of different things. Helping with cleanups at parks, or cleanups along the river, or things like that. Illicit discharge and detection and elimination. That's with, illegal dumping of materials into the waterway, or any kind of companies or whatever, even discharging hazardous material into the storm sewer system, things like that. Construction site storm water control program. Anytime there's any kind of construction, there has to be measures taken for the EPA, for erosion control, controlling runoff, making sure that the calculations are done and the water leaving the site's no greater after it's developed than it was before. Those kind of things, that there is no inundation downstream causing problems. Post-construction stormwater management program. Again, that's just making sure that once the sites are complete, all the vegetation is reestablished. There's methods that are in place that again prevent inundation downstream from the development. And then the pollution prevention, good housekeeping, for municipal operations, that could be like street sweeping, just roof pouring up, picking up trash, that kind of thing. There's a whole list of things that go into this manual. And there's an annual reporting that's done based on the manual. So every year, I think April 1st, you have to report to the EPA what you did to address the items in the manual. And, you say you did street sweeping once a month, every other week, or something like that. You check the box, basically, for that report. Part of what Choice One is going to do is help establish that manual, help write the manual. But there are pieces that Choice One cannot do. For instance, public education and outreach. That's something that the village would be required to do, set up a web page or something that there's links to help educate residents on how to handle something. What Choice One will do is the minimum control measures 4 and 5, which are the construction site stormwater control program and post-construction stormwater management. Anytime there's a development, construction, we'll come out and we'll observe, make sure that the contractor's following the guidelines established in the manual. Is you using proper erosion control methods? If you keep the site clean, if you got mud tracked out in the streets, and getting with the contractor, making sure that he gets all that stuff cleaned up. That would be part of what we'll do. And then at the end of the construction, we'll be out there to make sure everything's buttoned up nice, and we'll continue to come out after large rain events just to make sure that something doesn't happen once they put it in place. And once all the vegetation is finally established, the site's basically closed out from there. So those are the kind of things that Choice One will be doing. We started on the manual, and I got a list of Ray Hall, some different items that need to get addressed in the manual, and they kind of fell off from there, so we got maybe a quarter of the manual budget this one. So.
When were you actually hired?
Well, it was, my signature is in February of last year.
Okay.
But I don't think we actually got started until 2 months later. And I think it was August is when we got the EPA permit that established.
So you have an EPA permit, correct?
Yes.
And we're not in violation. What's your statement? we're not compliant.
We're not compliant, we're not in trouble with anything right now, but, there's a report that needs to be done for this year, and he is surprisingly been lenient on us and, allowing us to take that time to, instead of, as you stated, providing a falsification, bogus report. Also take the time and get things together, and then make a legitimate report. Based on the,
If I could expand on that, Jeff actually sat in a meeting with the EPA that came about of the conversations, because I found out about the April 1st deadline on March 18th and had no access to get into the report because you have to have an e-biz account. And it took a while to get that in place. And as a result of that, that's where my phone calls came in, and Jeff then came down and met. And we also spoke with GMA, and I'll talk more about that later. But so we got input from JMA too, which, excuse me, was interesting because I had always thought that JMA took over the stormwater management when we got out of the Hamilton. At least that's what we were led to believe.
Well, that was the plan.
Yeah, well, it didn't happen. And she made it very clear. I asked Michelle Flanagan, I said, okay, so you guys didn't know, whose responsibility was it to say to them, hey, we're on our own? And the comment I got from Michelle Flanagan was, that was the Village of Cleves' responsibility, because I thought maybe it was Hamilton County. They said, nope, that falls clearly on the Village of Cleves. And so, really, I think I appreciated your participation in there, because you had to come here pretty early in the morning from across town to be here. And the other side of it is, those weren't short meetings. So we got some work to do, there's no question about it. You have a question, Trey?
You know I do.
Yeah, I know you do.
Are they gonna be involved in the remedy for the problems that Duke created on Mount Nebo?
Yes, they are, and he's already been involved. Jeff, you want to explain to them that what happened over there on over by Timber Point?
yeah, it turned out, for whatever reason, Duke felt that it didn't need to contact Cleves to have the set of plans reviewed. They went to the county, and somebody at the county reviewed the plans. I got pulled in on it whenever there was some runoff issues. And after some badgering, we finally got a set of plan, the calculations, so that I could take a look at them. That's how you got the new ditch line going down to the creek, down the existing catch basin, with the new culverts, to help with that runoff. I understand now there's another issue that was before me.
Yeah, and I understand it affects Ted's property and also Cleve's Auto Body. There is flooding that is coming across and across Mount Nebo. And Ted had asked me to talk with Duke about, I think they were gonna give your daughter $1,500 or something like that to repair a parking area. And John and I went out and met, just so the council and public is aware. John Knuff asked to be involved in this process and was not allowed to. And John, I'll let John explain that to you guys at another time.
Who didn't allow him to
That-
do?
Well, they're
I
claiming,
believe-
they claim Patriot Act, secrecy, so that, they don't want, yeah, they don't want people knowing what they're doing,
So
because they
it's-
don't want any kind of,
Yeah, but it wasn't just Duke. And I think Ted came in here last year and tried to explain to council that he had asked to be part of that and was getting nowhere with the village. And personally, I think the village could have taken a much stronger stand. than what they did. And we're now suffering the problems because we did, because now that repair had to be made. And we've got an issue over at the substation that's flooding the Cleves Auto Body and other areas across the road. I have video of it. When I went out with John to meet with Duke, they took one look at that. They took a look at a detention pond they didn't believe was built in the wrong location where water can get to it. And so we have now a meeting coming up with Duke Energy, and I'll forward the email to council, where they have basically told us, well, we told the village we're not going to correct their, quote unquote, their problem. And I guess I'm gonna find out on the 15th of April what that is, because we'll meet with Duke on the 15th.
Because Hamilton County gave somebody that permit.
Well, we don't know that for sure.
Well, we were told by you that
Yeah.
the plans were approved.
We
We
don't-
haven't seen it.
We haven't seen it, we haven't heard you actually.
But
gave you
I was told by the state that permits, if Cleves required permits, they had to come through Cleves. That's what I was told.
Well, I don't believe they ever got any permits to Cleves, you know, so, the issue's still out there, and, we'll see where the 15th goes, but there's problems, the way it was built.
I guess I'm gonna have to interrupt because I'm gonna ask the question, and I know everybody else is talking, so I'm gonna interrupt. When you say the village did not, who specifically the village? Because I wanna know.
Well, go ahead and answer.
I'll stay.
I wanna hear from this council, if you seem to know, what specifically propagated this. That's what I'm trying to
I
get
can
to.
answer it. It's gonna be the same answer he's gonna give, because Ted asked me, I think after he found out I was gonna run for mayor, he invited me into a meeting over at Skyline, and we were there quite a while. And I sent emails to Mr. Ray Hall, and I sent emails to Mayor Myers, and in support of involving him and other residents, and the answer constantly was no. Yeah, we're not going to do that. I will say that Duke was no better, because I emailed Duke asking him why. And basically, they told me that they could do whatever they wanted to do, and the village of Cleves had no say, quote unquote. And I believe I have that in email writing. Now, what Mr. Rahal had on that, I can't speak to.
That's all I'm trying to get to, is who specifically Cleves was kind of.
That's the same two that.
May I answer?
Go ahead. Sure.
The mayor and Ray Hall both told me, no, I was not gonna be involved in, I was not allowed to be involved in a meeting. And I felt I was being stonewalled by those two. Not council, because when I appeared in front of council, because you weren't here and Linda weren't here, it seemed that the faces that I got were complete surprise that we weren't involved in it, and then Cleves didn't know anything about it. And I'm sure, I believe in my heart, that council members knew absolutely nothing that was going on over there, where I think Ray Hall and the previous mayor did, and we're not telling people.
Now, you said John Knuff asked to be involved.
John asked,
And they told him no too.
that's correct.
And I asked Duke to involve John numerous times in my conversations with them, being that he was in charge of maintenance and streets.
Well, Mike Rahal as the village administrator is technically the street commissioner.
See, back when we had a street commissioner, there was involvement.
Right, but the
And
village
there-
administrator takes that role and they want to go.
And that's what I'm trying to get to, is where, if we're going to put the nail on the head as to where the problem is occurring. That's all I'm trying to get to.
Harry, I can provide you with emails if you want.
I've got a ton of,
Okay,
no more, please.
I got it all in a file.
I'm sure you do. And all I'm trying to do is get the crux of the problem. And, you know, again, I'm not trying to be dogmatic or inappropriate, there were certain mechanisms that we had in place, we Cleves, however dismantled it may well be, because when there were issues, that when somebody came to do a cut and fill, there were permits issued. And JMA was supposed
They
to
did the
review
cut and
those.
fill, and they did the fill, and yeah, the earth movement, and.
Correct.
Did a special permit.
And that has been circumvented.
Well, that wasn't part of the stormwater.
It may not well have been.
That was a
but
different
Duke-
service they provided.
What I'm trying to point to is that Duke came in and did this under cloak and dagger, or whatever reasons, claiming patriot. You know, Cleves has the authority. We are an incorporation. They would have had to have gotten the permits, and they would have had to been reviewed.
Well, they was very, I don't know what they said to Mayor Myers or Mike
I
Ray.
understand. And that's all.
So they may very well have believed that they didn't have any say. As far as who told John he couldn't be involved, you're gonna have to ask John that. I don't know yet. I didn't say, John, who said you couldn't do it? He just told me he was not allowed, and he brought up the issue of the detention basin and was told there was nothing you could do about it.
I don't believe that we don't get a recourse.
I'm not arguing that. I'll just tell you that's what John told me. So we got an issue that we gotta resolve, and Jeff's gonna be there, but Jeff, I gotta ask one more question I think that everybody needs to know. Because this monitoring and making sure it happens, a lot of that's gonna fall on our service department, John Canal. Would you explain that to council? And then I would also like to address the street sweeping issue before you leave.
Part of the permit requirement is anytime there's a large rain event, and I believe I think they just increased the amount. So it used to be like anything greater than a half-inch rainfall. Certain facilities, and I mean outfalls, need to be inspected within 48 hours to make sure that everything is operating the way it's supposed to, the way it was designed. If there's an issue, then, you know, obviously it has to be addressed. And that's something, you know, Choice One doesn't have the manpower to come out and check every facility. And John and I had talked about that, that he said that his crew would potentially be able to do that.
Check every facility, what are you talking about? Every building in the building?
No, any kind of like, culverts, any kind of outfalls that leave, village property or property that is maintained or owned or operated by the village. Anything like outfalls into the rivers, creeks, that kind of thing.
Morgan Creek.
Or they think they want, yes, the one that we're looking at right now as well, but those kind of facilities.
And this is half an inch of rain, is it within a certain amount of time?
It's, that, again, they just changed that requirement. I think it's something like 3/4 of an inch of rainfall within an hour. It should be a half inch of rainfall within an hour.
Within an hour?
Yeah, within an hour. But the new permit just came out last month. I think it was a change of that. But yeah, that's something that would fall under the village to have that monitoring done.
Would you address the Morgan Creek? We had a grant that was.
Before you get to that,
Oh, absolutely.
on this point, okay, if you're not monitoring that with your manpower, are you helping us identify which of our installations need to be checked as part of your work on
That would be, you would have to be provided inventory. So I don't know what all the facilities are between the, John will probably know that, or there's somewhere within the village, you have the inventory of these outfalls.
You believe that you do? Okay. I'm just clarifying.
It's part of an asset management program.
It's gonna be a lot of what John, I've talked to John about this. Very valid question, Kevin, so I'm glad you asked it. But I know as we work on this manual that we're gonna be developing, all that stuff's gonna be looked at. And that is the thing, I think, right now, just to give you, now, Jennifer Batter had a different view on this, so I'm gonna give you both sides of the story. She wasn't worried about the EPA, okay? But we also haven't had discussions with her that you and I have had. And she was not involved in the meeting with the EPA. I think your comment was you were shocked that there was leaning. And I think in part, they understood, I think two things. One is maybe they weren't on top of it as much as they should have been. And secondly, I was bugging them so much on phone calls that, I mean, we had 3 or 4 EPA guys in Columbus in the morning, and I found out they actually had a pre-meeting about Cleves the day before, because I was like nipping at their heels, because I'm thinking, what's gonna happen to our village if I can't get this report done, because I didn't actually have the account set up to the day it was due. And so there really wasn't anything we could have done. We were supposed to have it in. Could they ding us? Yes, they could. Now all I gotta do is give them a timeline of when we're gonna have this April 1st report ready for them. So they sort of gave us a special dispensation. But we got a lot of work to do, and the maintenance department's gonna have a lot of work to do. And just to give you an example, unknowing that this was even part of the stormwater, I had had a conversation with John about sweeping our streets. And not knowing that how it's supposed to be part of our plan. Just so you know, the Village of Cleves streets have not been swept. They're supposed to have been swept. To do the Village of Cleves is going to cost us $4,000 to do it one time.
And a contract to be done.
We will have to have the contract to be done, we'll have to verify that. Now,
And that's every street in the village, right?
tell me, every street that needs it in the village, mostly downtown and in your subdivision in particular, they'll get spots of Coleman Woods and over your area where it's needed. But those streets are overall in pretty good shape. If you go down our streets in the downtown area, they got a lot of debris in the streets and they're clogging up the catch basins. And that's all part of the stormwater thing that should have been going on in the village all along, that wasn't going on in the village. So there's no question, John and I have had discussions, he's gonna be involved, but there could be additional costs. He may need more help to do what needs to be done.
And part of those facilities are the catch basins, and backing them out when they're, or full of leaves and junk and whatever.
Well, you inspect them after the rain to see if they're doing the job right.
And if it's one
And if there's a blockage, you have to fix it.
What about,
Which we used to do, by the way. Our maintenance department used to do that.
what about, I mean, on 50, those culverts and so forth that have a tendency to flood, is that our responsibility, or is that?
I don't know that answer.
We cut the grass.
We cut their grass, but again, that's.
Yeah, I would think that would be the state route.
Yeah, I think they reimburse us for 3 cuttings a year in the state does.
Well, not so much cutting, is the filling up, because I think.
No, I'm not talking, what I'm saying is we cut grass, is what I'm talking about.
And it may fall under the county too, I don't know.
Well, I know there's some letters coming from the EPA to me, but from Hamilton County, I just haven't received them yet. So,
But weren't those, I mean, does anybody know if those culverts were like out in front of like Napa and down the ways, weren't those retrenched here as a grade? Do you know that?
I don't know.
The one at the end of the street here that goes under the highway over to Napa, when they redid the lines out here, yes, they cleaned that out on that particular one on the corner. but it's got this much silt in it right now.
I just wonder what the responsibility is of those outfalls. You take tonight, what they're predicting as far as rain, and tomorrow, and a lot of our streets, some of our streets don't have curbings, divert water away.
And we've got, this, if you don't know, maybe you are aware, the only reason I'm aware is Jim Brett told me, he had, I think, 3 culverts that had to be replaced last year at about $6,000 a piece because they had not been maintained properly. So we gotta get out there and take care of this stuff. But I also want, because Jerry, I promised Jerry I was gonna do this. I want to talk about that Morgan Creek ditch, the grant, and what our options are, because that has to be cleaned out too.
Yeah, Hamilton County released some funds, ARPA funds, the COVID money, to help us with stormwater. It was like $3.5 million or something like that. And we put together an application, John and I took some pictures and wrote a nice little report to send off to the county to get approved for this grant money. And it turned out they provided a email address that wasn't functioning. And we were wondering what was going on, why we hadn't heard anything. John reached out to the lady's name that was mentioned in the advertisement for the grant and confirmed the email address, and that's when we found out that we had the wrong email address, and Village of Cleves was not the only one that responded to this. Somehow some people, other locations got the email right to the proper people. I don't know how that happened, but they actually pulled everybody's applications that sent to that fraudulent email, that's what it's called, but, and then reviewed them, but we didn't get funded for it. I didn't see the final list of who everybody did get funded, but Cleves was not one of them. Mayor had asked me to go back and look for other options for funding. There's some PWC funding coming up, it's a possibility. There's some CBDG. It's hard to talk with this thing. There's money for that, possibly. But ultimately, yeah, that it does need to be dredged out. There are places where the silts and sediments are built up to like a foot below the bottom of the top of the structure. So, but as far as funding, those are the 2 options I know of. We have reached out to the EPA. They came back with a WRLSP, it's a water revolving loan fund. But you have to have a match. It has to be over a certain dollar amount. And there is a potential for a principal forgiveness after a short period of time. So they'll forgive the principal. So, but I think the dollar amount is something over 100,000. I think it's this project is in their own.
Just to dredge it out?
Well,
To do cleanup?
I think we estimated it around $50,000 or $60,000
For Morgan Creek?
for Morgan Creek.
We did it once before when I was the clerk, maybe, I don't remember how many. And I don't know why we had to pay, I don't think we got it.
Well, from where we looked at it from over on Morgan all the way out to the river. And that price was $1 million to do that.
Yeah, we just did the area right by North Miami.
Right, and so we're looking at doing it in almost $60,000.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was 20 or 30, but I don't know.
John and I went out and got estimates with the contractor. That's about the price.
There's Morgan Creek, just curious.
Down by CT, it comes down
Okay.
Morgan Road, alongside Morgan Road,
Okay.
run off from the hill.
It's like 3 of the colors.
I know there's one big one right there by North Miami. There's fencing up there.
I want right there. Okay.
You know where it is?
I got it now.
Any other questions you have, Jeff? This contract, just so you guys are aware, was a $10,000 contract with his company, of which I don't even know if we used $1,000 of it yet. I don't know.
Sent you an email with the running tally, I think it's like $3,100, $3,200.
So when he comes out or he's consulting, then, you know, those are hours that are billable hours. But there really hasn't been a lot done on it, and we're gonna have to get working on it very quickly.
This may be a dumb question, but when we were in Hamilton County Stormwater, did the county do a lot of this stuff and we didn't even know it? I mean, what was our responsibility in 2012 before we pulled out?
Yeah.
Because I don't remember the county coming in and doing the inspections in the
Well,
county.
that's just.
Did they just file a report for us, or what did they do?
Potentially, you know, that's, when I first started this, and talking with Ray Hall about it, that was the reason for pulling out of the Hamilton County Stormwater, was because you felt that you were paying all this money to them and not getting it in return.
And by the way, the money, it used to be on your property taxes. Wasn't it like a $10 assessment, or it was a, am I
It
wrong,
wasn't,
Jeff?
it wasn't much.
No, it was a very small amount for stormwater, but it was in the residents' taxes.
I
And the
think,
whole
I think
purpose
they
of
measure
this,
it off the amount of water that comes off the sides of your house. I think they calculate.
Yeah, there's a stormwater utility, calculation that's done based on the property.
Yeah. it was like an assessment, a small, very small.
I mean, I've seen about $3.50, it comes on the water bill.
But if I remember the reason, one of the reasonings for pulling out of this is that that fee would come off of people's taxes. I don't know how else, it was supposed to be a money saving issue for residents.
But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, the county, Hamilton County Stormwater was supposed to be doing the inspections, and doing the monitoring, the manual, and my knowledge is that haven't.
Well, if we were part of their district, we were probably following their manual. That's what I'm guessing.
You had mentioned that we need to be doing on this, so now that we have our permit, no notices of violations, other than the fact that we're not compliant. So, we've been given dispensation, so to speak, or reprieve
For a while.
so do we have an end date on that as to a deadline?
We will probably after the 15th, because Jeff and I are gonna meet after the Duke meeting, and we're gonna start working on that manual and take a look at all that's gotta be done, and then I think we can put a deadline on it. That's all the EPA is asking for us to do, and I can assure you that once I understand everything that has to be done, I'll make sure that stuff gets done. I'm not concerned about that.
My question then to you is, do we have enough still here until to get done what we need to get done?
Potentially. I don't want to say 100% for sure.
We'll be close.
Yeah, it'll be close, yeah. When I put the pricing together, it was to be able to make sure everything got done with the manual. But since then, we've been happening for other things for so long.
Then as Cleves, we have equipped them to carry out the tasks that we're going to need.
Well, I met with, our website developer today, because one of the things he mentioned was the educational side of that. And she is working on making sure that is a highly visible part of our site. So once he and I are finished on the educational side, well, I'll make sure that's in there. We're already inadvertently doing the street sweep. There are grants in Hamilton County that deal with rainbows. So if you wanna, put that out there to our restaurant, you can actually get a free rainbow. So there's things that we can do and get in place. I just gotta sit with him and understand, he's already sent me a lot of information, including what I asked him to do if you guys decide to go back to a water board at some point. As this company worked, with water boards, and you sent me, pretty extensive, information.
We work with Montgomery County, Environmental Services, Warren County, Hamilton County, there's Tri-Cities up in Dayton. City right top of the head, Van Dyke is one of them. And they're like, kind of like what things used to be, the water board, and there's different municipalities, I guess you'd say. And, we work with them all the time.
But is the stormwater district a function of the water? Okay.
No, but if you go back to old, documents in Hamilton County, Eric Wingy's name is on
He was our street commissioner.
it. Was that why?
Yeah,
Okay. I did not realize he was a street
yeah,
commissioner.
he was a street
But
commissioner.
he's also
So was John
something
Booth from.
similar villages and that, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
No.
Yeah, so it's gonna be managed.
My last question, we have the skill and talent then to do the monitoring of this.
That's to be determined. I can't really answer that. I think once I understand everything's in there, then John and I'll sit down, and if we don't have it, we'll be back to council.
There are, training courses, certifications that you can get for MS4 communities, for inspections, maintenance, monitoring, those kind of things that John or else could possibly get. They're not difficult to attain.
Are you a principal of choice one?
No, I'm just, project engineer. He's one of the guys.
Only those.
Yeah, there's about 80 of us. We're full service engineers for survey, civil site design, public.
So this contract that you have with the village, how long was it for?
There was no end date.
So it was $10,000 and when it disappeared, then we gotta renew something.
Exactly. That's
For out,
yeah,
okay.
because, you know, we didn't want to put an end date on it because we didn't know what all we were gonna get involved with at the time, so it was like, okay, we'll
That's
set
fine.
it not to exceed X, and then when we start to exceed X, then we'll.
So it's a firm fixed fee.
Until it runs out.
That's what we do.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for council? How about the, audience out there? Thank you very much. Have a safe trip home. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time, appreciate it.